Everyone wants a better life. Everyone wants to grow, to achieve something meaningful, to feel proud of who they are. But wanting alone is never enough. Dreams don't come true because we wish for them. Goals don't become reality through hope. The truth is harsh but simple. The life you want is built on the back of self-discipline. It is not the talented who succeed. It is not the lucky or the charismatic. It is the disciplined, the ones who do what they said they would do, even when they don't feel like it. Self-discipline is the invisible force behind every achievement. It is the quiet decision to show up even when you're tired. It's the choice to stay focused when distraction whispers. It's the practice of saying no to what you want now, so you can say yes to what matters most later. Without it, potential goes to waste. With it, ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. You might think you need more motivation. You don't. Motivation comes and goes like the wind. What you need is structure, repetition, commitment. You need to train your mind to serve your goals, not your feelings, because your feelings will betray you. They'll convince you to delay, to avoid, to give in to comfort. Self-discipline is your defense. It is the bridge between your intentions and your results. And without it, no amount of talent will take you where you want to go. This isn't about being harsh with yourself. It's about loving yourself enough to live with intention, to act according to your values, to respect your time, to honor your goals. Self-discipline is a form of self-respect, and when you learn to develop it, everything in your life begins to change. There's a common belief that the key to achievement is motivation. People chase it. They look for ways to feel inspired, to feel driven, to feel fired up. But the truth is, motivation is unreliable. It's emotional. It fades. Some days you'll wake up energized, and other days you won't. And if your progress depends on feeling motivated, you'll only act when the conditions are perfect, and most of the time, they won't be. This is why self-discipline matters more. Self-discipline is what gets you to show up on the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. It's what keeps you moving forward when your energy is low and your excuses are loud. Self-discipline says, "I don't need to feel like it, I'll do it anyway." That's power. That's freedom, because the person who can act without needing the perfect mood is unstoppable. When you rely on motivation, your progress is unpredictable. When you rely on discipline, your progress becomes inevitable. Discipline creates habits. Habits create momentum. And momentum creates results. That's the formula. That's the difference between someone who talks about success and someone who lives it. You may not always feel inspired. You may not always feel strong. But with discipline, you don't need to. Discipline is a decision. It's a system, and once it becomes part of your identity, everything else becomes easier. You don't have to negotiate with yourself. You don't have to waste energy deciding whether or not you'll follow through. You simply act because that's who you are now. If you wait to feel ready, you'll wait forever. If you act with discipline, you'll become ready through action. That's the secret. You build the life you want not by chasing moods, but by mastering consistency. Discipline doesn't feel heroic, but it builds heroes. Life is short, but most people don't realize just how short until it's too late. So ask yourself, Do you want to feel good in the moment or feel proud in the future? Because every time you choose discipline over comfort, you cast a vote for the future you want. And those votes add up. They become habits. They become your lifestyle. They become your life. We've been told that willpower is the secret to success. That the strongest people are the ones with the greatest will, the ability to resist temptation, to power through difficulty, to overcome distractions through sheer mental strength. But that's only part of the truth. In reality, willpower is not infinite. It's not a magic switch you can turn on at any moment. Willpower is a resource, and just like any resource, it runs out. Think about it. How often have you started the day full of determination, only to find yourself exhausted and unfocused by the evening? That's not because you're weak. That's because willpower gets depleted. Every decision you make, every temptation you resist, every mental conflict you navigate throughout the day, it all chips away at your reserves. And when those reserves are low, it's easy to fall back into old habits, to say just this once, to postpone the hard thing for another time. That's why the people who appear to have the strongest willpower are often not relying on it at all. They've simply designed their lives in ways that reduce the need for willpower. They build habits. They create structure. They eliminate unnecessary decisions. They follow routines. In short, they make discipline automatic. That's the real secret. Not trying harder, but setting yourself up so you don't have to. The truth is, discipline is not about being superhuman. It's about designing systems that support your goals, even when your energy is low. It's about making good decisions easier and bad decisions harder. For example, if you want to eat healthier, don't rely on willpower to resist junk food. Don't keep it in your house in the first place. If you want to exercise more, set your clothes out the night before and schedule your workouts in your calendar. You remove friction from the actions you want and add friction to the ones you don't. People who succeed consistently aren't stronger than you. They're not more motivated. They've just mastered the art of reducing decision fatigue. They turn the right actions into rituals. That's why you don't have to think hard to brush your teeth or take a shower. Those are habits. They don't drain your willpower. You just do them. Now imagine if working on your goals felt the same way. That's what discipline builds: effortless consistency through intentional practice. This also means you must stop beating yourself up for slipping when you're tired. Of course, you'll struggle to make the best choice after a long, stressful day. That's human. But the solution is not to try harder in those moments, it's to make fewer decisions. You win the battle not during the moment of weakness, but long before it happens, by building a life where the right actions are the default, not the exception. Another thing to realize is that relying on willpower puts you in constant conflict with yourself. Every day becomes a battle between your short-term impulses and your long-term goals. And eventually, that internal war wears you down. But when you build discipline into your identity, the battle disappears. You don't fight with yourself because your actions are aligned with who you believe you are. You no longer say, "I should do this," or "I have to do this." You say, "This is just what I do." That's where real freedom comes from, not from indulging every urge, but from not being a slave to them. Discipline gives you that freedom. You don't waste energy negotiating with yourself. You don't wake up wondering what kind of day it will be. You already know. Because you've made a commitment that doesn't change with your mood. So let go of the myth that willpower is the answer. Let go of the idea that success depends on feeling strong every single day. The truth is, you will have weak days. You will feel tired. You will face resistance. And that's exactly why you need discipline, not to fight those moments, but to move through them with grace and clarity. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about creating an environment, a system, and a mindset that allows you to win even when everything in you wants to quit. Your job isn't to have perfect willpower. Your job is to make self-discipline your lifestyle. Not something you use in emergencies, but something you live every day quietly, consistently, and relentlessly. Confidence. Everyone wants it. Everyone admires it. We think of confident people as bold, fearless, magnetic, walking into a room with certainty, making decisions without hesitation, facing challenges without flinching. But the confidence we often admire is just the surface. The truth is, real confidence, the kind that's unshakable, the kind that lasts, is not something you're born with. It's something you build, and the foundation of that confidence is self-discipline. See, most people chase confidence by chasing external approval. They want praise, validation, success. They try to look confident before they actually are, but this type of confidence is hollow. It depends on outcomes. It depends on how others see you. And the moment you fail or get criticized or feel uncertain, that fake confidence collapses like a house of cards. True confidence doesn't come from pretending. It comes from evidence. It comes from action. And there is no greater evidence for your brain than doing hard things consistently. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, every time you follow through on what you said you would do, every time you prove to yourself that you can be trusted, you build a deeper belief in yourself. That belief becomes your inner strength. That's what real confidence is, knowing that no matter what happens, you can handle it because you've trained for it. Self-discipline is the practice of self-trust. When you keep promises to yourself, your brain starts to recognize that your words mean something. You say you'll wake up early and you do. You say you'll work on your goals and you follow through. You say you won't give up when it gets hard and you push through. These actions, repeated over time, send a powerful message to your subconscious: I can rely on me. And that's the root of unshakable confidence, not being perfect, but being reliable. On the flip side, when you constantly break promises to yourself, your self-respect erodes. You begin to doubt yourself, you hesitate, you feel uncertain. Not because you're incapable, but because your own behavior has taught your brain not to believe you. You've created a pattern of hesitation, avoidance, and inconsistency. And that becomes your identity. It's not the failure that breaks you, it's the pattern of giving up on yourself. That's why discipline matters. It's not just about achieving goals. It's about building a reputation with yourself. Imagine this. If someone you knew constantly lied to you, let you down, and broke every commitment, would you trust them? Of course not. So what happens when that person is you? What happens when your own mind can't count on your actions? That's what lack of discipline does. It fractures your identity. But the beautiful thing is, you can reverse that. You can rebuild trust. One choice at a time, one day at a time. You don't need to conquer everything overnight. You just need to keep showing up, doing what you said you would do, especially when it's inconvenient. The most confident people in the world are not the ones who feel fearless. They're the ones who feel fear and still move forward. They're the ones who've conditioned themselves to act in alignment with their values, not their emotions. They've built habits that reinforce their identity. They don't need to hype themselves up every morning. Their confidence doesn't come from affirmation, it comes from proof. They've proven, through discipline, that they can depend on themselves. Confidence built on discipline doesn't shout. It doesn't need to impress. It's quiet, grounded, steady. It's the calm in the middle of chaos. It's the strength that doesn't need attention. Because when you know what you're capable of, you don't need to prove it to anyone. You live it. And here's the thing, every time you delay gratification, every time you choose the harder path, every time you resist distraction in favor of progress, you are training your identity. You are reinforcing the belief that you are someone who finishes what you start, someone who does hard things, someone who can count on themselves. That is the kind of confidence that doesn't crack under pressure. That's the kind of confidence that carries you through setbacks, criticism, and failure because you've faced yourself and come out stronger. So don't look for confidence in books, in compliments, or in temporary success. Build it in silence. Build it in the gym at 6 a.m. when no one's watching. Build it in the quiet moments when you choose focus over distraction. Build it in the small decisions again and again until it becomes who you are. Discipline is not just the path to success, it's the foundation of confidence. And once you have that, no one can take it from you. If self-discipline is the engine that drives long-term success, then delayed gratification is the steering wheel that keeps you on the right road. It's one of the most powerful psychological skills a person can develop, yet also one of the rarest. We live in a culture of instant pleasure. Click, and it's delivered. Scroll, and you're entertained. Post, and you're validated. We're conditioned to expect results now, joy now, relief now. But success, real success, doesn't work that way. It belongs to those who are willing to wait, to endure, to trade short-term comfort for long-term gain. That's delayed gratification. The concept is simple. It's the ability to resist the temptation of an immediate reward in order to gain something better later. But just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, it goes directly against your biology. Your brain is wired to seek comfort and avoid pain. It doesn't care about your long-term goals. It cares about survival, and in the modern world, that often looks like reaching for a quick hit of dopamine, checking your phone, grabbing junk food, watching another episode instead of doing the work. Every time you give in to that impulse, you're strengthening the habit of immediate gratification. You're teaching your brain, this is how we deal with discomfort, we escape it. But here's the truth, everything worthwhile in life is on the other side of discomfort. The body you want, the business you dream of, the skills you wish you had, The relationships you long for, none of them come from giving in to what feels good right now. They come from staying the course when it's hard, boring, or frustrating. They come from delaying the urge to quit. They come from discipline. The most successful people aren't the ones who always feel motivated. They're the ones who've trained themselves to prioritize long-term results over short-term impulses. They've made peace with discomfort. They've accepted that growth hurts, that mastery takes time, that rewards are earned, not handed out instantly. That mindset gives them an edge because, while others are distracted chasing quick fixes, they're patiently building something real. Let's take a look at one of the most famous studies in psychology, the Stanford marshmallow experiment. Children were given a choice: eat one marshmallow now, or wait 15 minutes and get two. The researchers followed those children for decades, and the ones who were able to wait, they didn't just get more marshmallows. They grew up to have better academic performance, healthier relationships, higher incomes, and greater emotional control. Why? Because delayed gratification isn't just a cute childhood trait, it's the foundation of self-control, resilience, and success. Now here's the exciting part. Delayed gratification is not a fixed trait. It's not something you either have or don't have. It's a skill. Unlike any skill, it can be trained. Every time you push through a workout, stick to a budget, or hold your tongue in a difficult conversation, you're choosing to master yourself. And that mastery compounds over weeks, months, and years. It separates the achievers from the dreamers. But to succeed at this, you need more than willpower, you need clarity. You must know exactly what you're working toward. Because when the moment of temptation comes, and it will, you need a reason to say no. You need a future that's vivid enough to pull you forward. If your goals are vague, the present will always win. But if your vision is clear, meaningful, and deeply tied to your values, you'll be far more willing to suffer now for something greater later. That's where habits, systems, and identity come into play. You don't delay gratification by gritting your teeth and suffering through life. You delay it by making the process sustainable. By building routines that support your goals. By creating a lifestyle where choosing discipline becomes natural, not forced. And most importantly, by becoming the kind of person who values the future more than the moment. That shift in identity is powerful. You no longer see discomfort as punishment, you see it as the price of greatness. You no longer see waiting as weakness, you see it as strength. Look at elite athletes, master musicians, successful entrepreneurs, great thinkers. They didn't get there by chasing every whim. They lived through years of delayed rewards. They practiced when it wasn't fun. They sacrificed comforts others weren't willing to. And now, they enjoy the results others only dream of. That's the paradox. Discipline may feel hard in the moment, but in the long run, it creates a life of freedom. While indulgence feels good now, but leads to a life of regret. So the next time you're tempted to quit, to escape, to choose comfort over commitment, pause. Ask yourself, what do I want most? Not just what do I want right now. In that pause lies power. In that space, you decide who you are becoming, because success is not a sudden event. It's the result of thousands of moments where you chose later over now, growth over ease, purpose over pleasure. Master delayed gratification, and you will master your future. At first glance, discipline and freedom seem like opposites. Discipline sounds rigid, restrictive, even harsh, like rules and routines and saying no all the time. Freedom, on the other hand, feels like the ability to do whatever you want, whenever you want. So how can the two possibly go together? But here's the paradox that changes everything. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. Discipline is a doorway to it. We often confuse freedom with indulgence. We think freedom means no limits, no structure, no responsibilities, just living in the moment, doing what feels good. But that version of freedom is an illusion, because the moment you let your impulses control your life, you're no longer free. You're a slave to your emotions, your cravings, your distractions, your fears. You say yes to everything, and before you know it, you can't say no to anything. You're trapped in cycles of procrastination, addiction, avoidance, and regret. True freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It's the ability to choose what's best for you, regardless of how you feel in the moment. It's the ability to rise above your instincts, your impulses, and your excuses and act in alignment with your values and goals. And that kind of freedom only comes from self-discipline. Imagine this. You want financial freedom. That doesn't come from spending impulsively, racking up debt, and chasing instant gratification. It comes from disciplined delayed gratification, budgeting, saving, investing, making conscious decisions about your money. In the short term, that might feel like restriction, but in the long term, you gain freedom, freedom from stress, freedom from debt, freedom to choose how and where you live. Or think about health. If you eat whatever you want, whenever you want, it might feel freeing in the moment, but over time, it leads to energy crashes, weight gain, illness, and dependency. That's not freedom, that's a prison built out of undisciplined choices. On the other hand, if you build the discipline to eat clean, move your body, and rest intentionally, you gain the freedom of energy, vitality, strength, and confidence. You're not restricted, you're empowered. In relationships, discipline means showing up, being honest, managing your emotions, listening even when it's hard, and staying when things get tough. That effort creates trust, intimacy, and deep connection. Without discipline, you fall into reactive patterns, saying things you regret, avoiding hard conversations, or running away when it gets uncomfortable. That may feel like freedom in the moment, but it leads to loneliness and disconnection. The same principle applies to your time. Most people waste time not because they don't care, but because they don't control it. They wake up late, scroll endlessly, jump from task to task, always reacting but never leading. They think having no schedule, freedom, but it's chaos. Real freedom is being able to spend your time on what truly matters to you. And that requires discipline, planning, saying no, setting boundaries, protecting your focus. In short, discipline gives you choices. When you master your habits, your time, your thoughts, and your actions, you're no longer at the mercy of your environment. You become the one steering the ship. You may sacrifice momentary pleasure, but you gain control of your future. You gain the ability to design a life instead of just drifting through it. One of the greatest lies society tells you is that comfort equals happiness. But the truth is, constant comfort leads to weakness. Real happiness, the deep, fulfilling kind, comes from knowing you're in charge of your life. That even when things are hard, you can rely on yourself. That even when the world is chaotic, you have an anchor within you. That kind of peace, that kind of confidence, is born through discipline. So the next time discipline feels like a burden, reframe it. Discipline is not about punishment. It's about power. It's about freedom, not in the shallow sense of doing whatever you want, but in the deeper sense of being fully alive, fully present, and fully in control of your destiny. Every time you choose to delay a small reward, you strengthen that mental muscle. Every time you resist the urge to procrastinate, you're building endurance. The irony is this: the people who look the most free, the ones with the time, health, confidence, and clarity, are usually the most disciplined. Because discipline doesn't take your freedom away, it hands it back to you. If there's one truth about self-discipline that gets overlooked, it's this: greatness is not built in one big moment. It's built in thousands of tiny ones. Most people imagine discipline as something grand and heroic, waking up at 4 a.m. to run a marathon, grinding through impossible challenges, or making huge sacrifices. But that's not where real discipline lives. Real discipline lives in the quiet, ordinary choices you make every single day. The small wins, the hidden battles, the moments no one else sees. Because it's in those moments when you choose to get out of bed instead of hitting snooze, when you sit down to write instead of scrolling your phone, when you go for a walk instead of watching TV, it's in those little decisions that you start to shape your identity. And your identity is everything. Your actions become your habits become your character, and your character becomes your destiny. Think about this: every decision you make is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. When you choose to show up to the gym, even when you're tired, you're casting a vote for being a disciplined person. When you say no to junk food, you're voting for health. When you stay focused on your goals instead of chasing distractions, you're voting for a future version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more in control. And the beautiful thing is, it doesn't require perfection. You don't need to win every battle. You just need to win more often than you lose. Because each small win builds momentum. Each act of discipline creates evidence that you are capable. And over time, those wins add up. They become your story. They become the internal narrative that says, I'm someone who follows through. I do the hard things. I don't give up. That kind of self-belief is incredibly powerful. It doesn't come from motivational quotes or hype videos, it comes from proof. And that proof is built in the small moments. in the decisions you make when no one is watching, in the resistance to shortcuts, in the quiet victories. Let's be honest, discipline doesn't always feel exciting. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's frustrating. Often, it feels like nothing is changing. But that's the trap. We overestimate what we can achieve in a week, and we underestimate what we can achieve in a year. Success is rarely dramatic. It's subtle. It's slow. It's the product of invisible progress that compounds quietly until one day you wake up and realize you've become someone new. That's why routines and systems matter, because when discipline becomes part of your daily life, it stops being a struggle and starts being automatic. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" You just do it. It's part of who you are. And when that shift happens, when discipline moves from something you force to something you embody, everything changes. And here's the thing, those small wins not only build habits, they build integrity. Because every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, you build self-trust. You send a message to your brain, "I do what I say I will do," and that trust is the foundation of confidence. You stop doubting yourself because you have evidence that you can rely on yourself. You become dependable not just to others, but to yourself. And that inner integrity is what separates people who dream from people who do. It's not easy. Some days you'll want to quit. Some days you'll feel like it's not worth it. But remember this, the path to discipline is paved with small, daily acts of courage. Waking up when you don't want to. Speaking truth when it's uncomfortable. Choosing effort when ease is available. Pushing forward when you'd rather stay still. And those small moments, they're not small at all. They are the foundation of everything you will become. So don't wait for the perfect day, the perfect mood, the perfect opportunity. Start today with one small win, one act of alignment, one choice to be disciplined when it would be easier not to. Then do it again tomorrow, and the next day. Because with each small win, you're not just changing your behavior, you're changing who you are. Discipline is not about achieving perfection. It's about making progress, one decision at a time. And over time, those decisions will transform your identity. From someone who hesitates to someone who acts. From someone who makes excuses to someone who makes progress. From someone who doubts to someone who leads. So rise up, fight the daily battle, win the small moments. Because those moments will build you into the person you were always meant to become. If there's one moment that truly tests the strength of your self-discipline, it's when you fail. Not when things are going well, not when you're winning, motivated, praised, or rewarded. No, your discipline is forged in the fire of disappointment, setbacks, and breakdowns. That's where you find out what you're really made of. Failure is painful. It shakes your confidence, clouds your vision, and makes you question everything: your abilities, your dreams, your worth. It tempts you to give up, to play small, to retreat. But here's the truth most people don't realize. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every person who has ever achieved anything meaningful has failed often and hard. The difference is how they responded. And the key to that response, self-discipline. And the key to that response, self-discipline. Because self-discipline doesn't just help you build success, it helps you survive the moments when everything falls apart. It gives you the ability to keep showing up, even when you feel defeated. It allows you to stay grounded when the world around you feels uncertain. It helps you resist the urge to quit when quitting seems like the easier path. And that kind of resilience, the ability to rise after a fall, is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Failure can make you bitter, or it can make you better. And the determining factor is your response. Without discipline, you spiral, you blame, you hide, you give up. But with discipline, you pause. You reflect. You take responsibility. You ask, what can I learn from this? And how can I come back stronger? Discipline helps you mine the failure for wisdom instead of running from the discomfort. It helps you focus not on what's happened to you, but on what you'll do next. Because here's the truth, no one escapes failure. The difference is whether you stay down or stand back up. And every time you stand back up, even shakily, you train a part of your mind, a deep part, to believe in your own strength. Not because you're perfect, but because you're willing. You're willing to try again. You're willing to grow. You're willing to face the pain rather than avoid it. Discipline is not the absence of emotion. It's the ability to keep going despite the emotion. You can feel tired and still act. You can feel ashamed and still learn. You can feel afraid and still move forward. That is where power is born, not in being unaffected, but in being unwilling to be stopped. Some of the greatest transformations in life come not from our successes, but from how we respond to our failures. It's in the moment when everything falls apart that you discover who you are and what you truly want. And if you use that moment well, if you face it with honesty, courage, and discipline, it can be the turning point that leads to something far greater than what you lost. But make no mistake, rising from failure is a decision. It doesn't happen naturally. The easy thing is to collapse. The common path is to quit. The ordinary response is to hide from it, to numb the pain with distractions, to pretend like it didn't matter. But discipline demands something higher. Discipline calls you to stand up with your scars, your disappointments, your doubts, and walk forward anyway. Not because it's easy, but because your purpose matters more than your pride. And here's the miracle. When you learn to rise from failure, you no longer fear it. You understand that failure doesn't define you, it refines you. Every time you fall and choose to stand, you build a deeper kind of strength, a quiet confidence, a resilience that cannot be faked. You become someone the world can't easily break. Self-discipline turns failure from something that stops you into something that shapes you. And that shift changes everything. Suddenly, setbacks become setups, pain becomes fuel. Rejection becomes redirection, and instead of avoiding challenges, you start to welcome them because you know you can handle whatever comes next. So if you failed, good. It means you tried. It means you stepped into the arena. And now you get to choose. Will this be the end of your story or the beginning of your rise? Let it be your beginning. Let this be the moment you dig deeper. Show up again. Adjust your strategy. Refocus your mind. Take the lesson, but never lose the mission. Because your purpose is bigger than your mistake, and the road to greatness always runs through the valley of failure. Remember, discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being committed. No matter how many times you fall, get back up. Rise with more wisdom. Rise with more hunger. Rise with the unshakable belief that you are not done yet. Because you're not. We live in a world that is constantly pulling at our attention. Notifications, messages, ads, headlines, videos, updates, everything is designed to interrupt you. Everything is competing for your time, your energy, your focus. The modern world has made it easier than ever to be busy, and harder than ever to be productive. In fact, we're not just distracted, we're addicted to distraction. In this age of noise, self-discipline isn't just a useful trait, it's a survival skill. The ability to control your attention, to protect your focus, and to direct your energy with intention is what will separate the people who build meaningful lives from those who simply scroll through them. Let's face it, most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they're constantly pulled away from what matters. Every time you check your phone for no reason, every time you bounce between tasks, every time you open a tab just to escape a moment of boredom, you're training your mind to fragment. You're conditioning yourself to lose presence. And over time, that fragmented attention becomes your default state. You feel anxious, unfocused, overstimulated, yet strangely unfulfilled. Discipline means you don't let the world dictate your direction, you choose it. Let's face it, most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they're constantly pulled away from what matters. You don't allow your mind to be hijacked by every ping and pop-up. You build barriers. You take control of your environment. You recognize that your attention is your most valuable currency and you invest it wisely. Focus is not something you wait to feel, it's something you train, like a muscle. And the more you practice choosing focus over distraction, the stronger it becomes. That means turning off notifications. That means carving out distraction-free blocks of time. That means saying no to what's urgent, so you can say yes to what's important. It also means getting comfortable with boredom. Most people fear boredom because they've never faced their own minds in silence. But boredom is not your enemy, it's a gateway, a space where clarity emerges. A moment where your thoughts can settle and your vision becomes sharper. When you learn to sit with boredom without escaping into entertainment, you take your power back. You become the one in charge of your mind, not a slave to stimulation. You also need to simplify. The modern mind is drowning in input, so you have to curate your life like an artist. Declutter your goals. Choose a few things that matter and go deep, rather than chasing everything that catches your eye. Because the more priorities you have, the less power you bring to any one of them. Depth is better than breadth, and depth requires focus. This is the discipline of focus, resisting the urge to multitask, learning to be where you are, finishing what you start, protecting your creative energy like your life depends on it, because in a way, it does. And here's something most people forget. The more you give in to distractions, the harder it becomes to resist them. But the more you resist, the more mental strength you build. It's a feedback loop. Every time you stay on task, you rewire your brain for clarity. Every time you delay gratification, you reinforce the neural pathways of patience, perseverance, and purpose. Eventually, it becomes who you are. You become someone who is not easily pulled off track, someone who finishes what they start, someone who doesn't chase every shiny object, someone who can sit down, lock in, and do deep, meaningful work. And in a distracted world, that is a superpower. But don't expect it to be easy. Your brain has been trained to crave stimulation. It will resist the silence. It will beg you to check, scroll, bounce. But discipline says, not now. I'm doing what matters. And the more you do that moment by moment, hour by hour, you reclaim control. Because here's the truth. No one is coming to protect your time. No one is going to unplug your distractions for you. That's your job. That's your responsibility. And if you don't claim that power, the world will gladly steal it from you. So take it back. Build rituals that protect your focus. Create sacred spaces for deep work. Design your environment to support your discipline. Remove what tempts you. Block what drains you. Simplify what overwhelms you. And most importantly, remember why you're doing this. You're not just trying to be productive. You're trying to build a life of meaning. You're trying to honor your potential. You're trying to be present for the things and people that truly matter. That requires intention. That requires courage. That requires discipline. So choose it, practice it, master it, because in the age of distraction, focus is freedom. Self-discipline, at its core, is not about punishment or deprivation. It's not about living a rigid life, following a set of rules, or suppressing joy. It's about liberation. It's about aligning your actions with your vision. It's about doing the things that shape you into the person you were always meant to become. Because deep down, you already know who that is. You've seen glimpses of that version of yourself in the quiet moments, the focused one, the strong one, the kind one, the relentless one. The one who doesn't run from fear. The one who rises early, stays late, gives their all. The one who honors their word, not just to others, but to themselves. That version of you is not a fantasy. It's your potential. And the bridge between who you are and who you could be is built with self-discipline. Discipline is the foundation of freedom. Without it, you become a prisoner of impulse, emotion, and environment. But with it, you become the architect of your own life. You create order out of chaos. You bring your dreams into reality. You transform vague intentions into concrete results. You stop drifting and start driving. But more than anything, discipline reveals what you're made of. It strips away the noise. It burns off the excuses. It forces you to meet yourself in the mirror and ask, are you living like you mean it? Are you truly honoring the time you've been given? Because life is short and not just in theory. One day, your time will run out. And when it does, you won't be thinking about how many likes you got or how often you scrolled. You'll be thinking about whether you became the person you could have been, whether you had the courage to chase what mattered, whether you gave your gift to the world. And that's what discipline gives you, the power to live intentionally, the power to wake up every day and choose growth over comfort, effort over ease, purpose over distraction. It gives you the ability to say, I may not be there yet, but I'm on the path. And I'm not stopping. You see, discipline is not just something you do, it becomes someone you are. It becomes the quiet strength in your character, the calm confidence in your presence, the invisible force that says, I don't need motivation, I have direction. But this transformation doesn't happen all at once. It's not dramatic. It's daily. It happens in the moments no one sees. When you choose to show up, when you push through resistance.
When you finish what you started. When you rise after falling. When you keep your word, even when it's hard.
That's where the change begins, not in intensity, but in consistency, not in grand gestures, but in quiet commitment. And eventually, something shifts. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to realize that you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be committed. You don't need to have all the answers, you just need to keep moving forward. That's when the impossible starts to become inevitable. That's when discipline turns into destiny. Because here's the truth, you are capable of far more than you think. But you'll never discover that power if you always choose what's easy. Greatness does not live in your comfort zone. It lives on the other side of challenge, discomfort, repetition, and sacrifice. And the only way to reach it is to earn it step by step, day by day, choice by choice. You don't rise by accident, you rise by intention. So let this be your declaration. No more waiting. No more wasting time. No more hiding from your potential. You were not born to live small, distracted, or afraid. You were born to build something with your life, to make it count. And that starts with discipline. The kind that's rooted in love, not just for your goals, but for who you can become. Because you kept going, because you chose growth when it was hard, and because you lived, not by default but by design. This is your time. This is your life. Don't waste it. Shape it. Lead it. Live it with discipline.